This video is going to be my second mock draft that I conduct for the Detroit Lions and their fan base. This one's going to be a little bit unconventional form of a mock draft, perhaps a little too ambitious. I thought about doing this via live stream. Feel free to let me know what you think of the structure and the content as we go through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some picks for myself up through round 4, so 28, 60, 102, and then 130. But however, at the same time, the plan here is to allow you, the viewer, the listener, to make picks as well. So I'm willing to do another one of these if the structure could be tightened up or improved at all. If it ends up breaking down, feel free to let me know in the comment section. But what I'll do is present a list of players at each stop, 28, 60, 102. And then you as the watcher or listener can document or list your own choices. I'll be doing the same thing. This is obviously pre-recorded. But during the premiere and then as you watch the video later on, if you want to list, post up, comment with your selections at each pick and or with your final group of selections, basically rounds 1 through 3. I'm obviously trying to get people to comment. Let's be clear here, okay? But I thought this would be a fun way to do a mock draft and get interaction from people from whoever wanted to participate. Got the idea from a couple of people in my Ravens Discord. So with that being said, I will give the options that I'm somewhat limiting you to with the first pick and pick 28. Some of the players that will be available, the way that this will work is on the left side of the frame will be the top 6 or 7 players available. Again, this is round 1, pick 28. The top 6 or 7 players available according to the NFL mock draft database. And then over on the right, you'll see cycling through. In this case, I think we've got corners, defensive end or edge players, and then offensive line for pick 28. It's kind of limiting in a sense on my part, but I think we all know, at this point, we all know what's in the Lions' best interest to handle or address at pick 28, and that's defensive end, outside linebacker. So that's what I did, and I'll reveal my selection in a moment. But some of the options and the thought here, based on the film that I have watched, which at this point, I would say I've studied about 46 players in depth out of a total of 60 players whose film has been cut. And so what I mean is cut, edited down into 15 to 20 plays that people in my Discord or Patreon can watch the film of themselves. And then I go back and study the film after I've done the cutting. So the left side frame is the top players available. I would have no problem if someone wants to take, Jihad Campbell, Malachi Starks, great safety from Georgia, really no need for a safety in Detroit. Edge defenders, you're looking at a different type of guy. Donovan from Boston College. I'm not even going to try to say the last name. I've messed it up, butchered it twice in previous videos, versus a guy like Nick Scourton. And so hopefully all that makes sense. It'll probably clear up some once we get going, if it doesn't already. If you want to use pen and paper or your phone or just type it in the chat, that's fine too, to document your picks. Probably easiest to do it that way. If there's an opportunity to do a shared document or shared workspace next time, I would love to do that. Just not sure how to secure it so nothing disruptive or untoward can happen. If you are listening, you probably want to come back to this one later. The idea is that it kind of requires the visuals to see the choices. So for me, it came down to the 2 outside linebackers. And I do like Landon Jackson, don't get me wrong. I really prefer Nick Scourton here. Very balanced, strong defensive end. It wouldn't surprise me if Brett Holmes doubles up at outside linebacker edge position in this draft. I think the guy from Boston College is more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. I really do love the film of Maxwell Hairston, the ball-hawking corner from Kentucky. Great in zone, in my opinion. I don't know much about Siobhan Revel. I have the film, just haven't cut it up nor studied it. Hairston's a guy who makes game-changing plays, and the Lions need that. The Lions want that, right? The Lions fan base wants that. I'm a big fan of Trey Amos and Thomas, the corner from Florida State. Porter is a super athletic 6'4" corner from Iowa State. He ran a 4.3 40 at the combine. It's great ball skills. I don't think you could go wrong. And I get it. People will say, well, Coach, why are you entertaining corner at 28? If the right guy's there, then Brad Holmes will take him if he thinks he's a fit. You've got DJ Reed and drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. last year. I wouldn't advocate for going corner at 28, and in fact, I did not. But if you do so, I won't criticize you. I just think the need for defensive end and outside linebacker at this moment is so severe. There's good options on the offensive line, which you see cycling through, not for the Lions. Jihad Campbell, I would have no trouble. I wouldn't criticize anyone at all. The two safeties from the SEC, Starks and Emanuwari, very talented. I'm a little bit higher on Starks from a on-field standpoint. Campbell would bring that element of, well, first you'd have two inside linebackers named Campbell, that inside linebacker, outside linebacker hybrid. And where this one doesn't fit, for me, in some sense, is that you just re-signed Derek Barnes for 3 years. I do think that Jihad Campbell is an inside linebacker with occasional blitz usage in the NFL. I don't see him as a consistent pass rusher. I would say he's less refined with his pass rush moves than even a Jalen Walker, who I like both of those players. I actually love both those players, but Walker to me looks like a guy who could be a full-time edge rusher, and Campbell doesn't give off the same vibes to me. So as it stands, I went with Nick Scourton, one of my favorites in the draft. You've got size, speed, burst, length, athleticism. Production was better in 2023. He had 10 sacks at Purdue. Only 5 sacks last year in the SEC. Criticize that if you will, but then think of it this way. Shamar Stewart, the defensive end on the other side, played on the same team as him. He had 4.5 sacks for his entire career. And so I like Scourton. In fact, I would take Scourton over Stewart if I had the option, and I'd be really happy about it. I think that Brad Holmes probably needs to address outside linebacker again, either in free agency or in the draft. If you want, post up your pick, your selection there, I should say, in the comment section or during the premiere. Feel free to do it however you wish, by pick or as an aggregate or just a total at the end. So pick 2, round 2, I should say, pick number 60. Here's where it'll get challenging for myself, and I might reach my own limitations in terms of capability to keep my dialogue and comments pertinent, because we all made different selections, most likely, in round 1. I once again have edge defenders and offensive line included here. I'm assuming that most of us took an edge defender. Excuse me, I think it makes sense for most of us to take an edge defender in the first round. Your choices here are a little different. The two guys from Ohio State, I'm not saying that they won't be good football players, just don't see the same level of devastating playmaking ability from those guys as I do from a Scourton or the guy from Boston College. So you've also got corners cycling through here, offensive line. I think there's 5 position groups. Again, on the left-hand side is the highest rated players available. I do think that my pick here is going to be a little unpopular. I really like Xavier Watts. He's got incredible production. He's still available as well as 2 talented wide receivers in Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins. So let's start here. If you didn't take a D-end or outside linebacker in round 1, I think you pretty much have to now, right? You can't skip past it, even though the depth of the position is really good. I mean, I'm seeing mock drafts where Braden Swinson from LSU is there at 102 for the Lions in the 3rd round. I mean, that might be your second choice if you're looking to double up. Defensive tackle is a concern there with the injury to Aleem McNeil. Always want to build O-line depth. If you like balanced, experienced guys, go with one of the D-ends from Ohio State. Princely, the speed rusher from Mississippi, very talented. I think he's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker early on in his career, probably as a pass rush specialist. I don't think I'll use him and Braden Swinson as examples of the quandary or the difficulty with the draft. They're guys that won't be there at 102, or they shouldn't, right? What's the old saying by Yogi Berra? It gets late early out here, right? Those are guys, if you want them, you probably got to take them at pick 60. For myself, I took Scourton in round 1, so I won't do that. But Swinson's one of my favorites. If you're looking to take an edge defender, you didn't do so in round 1 for the Lions, you should take Swinson now. Or one of the Ohio State guys. Swinson is tall. He's got a great length, incredible burst. Doesn't always get full extension of his arms in the run game. I like him head up on a tight end as a 6 technique. I think he's better there than Princely, the guy from Mississippi. Now, the same dynamic exists for defensive tackles. Some of these guys, Turner from Texas A&M and Farmer from Florida State. If you want one, you may have to take them now. They may not be available at 102. So that's the quandary. That's the difficulty of the challenge for the guys who are actually making those decisions. I used to say I like the player, but I don't like the pick, meaning I don't like taking a certain player in round 2 if I don't think it's warranted. And some would say that applies to the guy that I'm going to pick here. Really good offensive line on the board at pick 60. Millam, Emory Jones, tackles, but Jones is a guy who some said can move to guard. So he has some positional versatility. I know Taylor Decker signed for a few more years. You also drafted Manu last year, so perhaps you don't, see the need to take a tackle. For me, if you're going to take a tackle here, it's got to be someone who's got that guard versatility that creates depth at two positions. And I don't think that round 2 for Detroit is the place to do it. I have a feeling, like I said earlier, that some people are not going to like my pick, and that's okay. This is one of my personal favorites, and that's really the reason I'm attempting this format, is to see how people think. People think differently, and if you would prefer a typical mock draft format, then feel free to let me know, where I just present my pick. So I picked Trey Harris. Justify or defend your own pick here if you want in the comment section. Jameson Williams' contract situation right now, as I record this, is up in the air. He's got an extension opportunity in the offseason. I think it has to be done by May 1st, but I might be wrong. The Lions could also just pick up his fifth-year option. Should they extend him? Should they just pick up the fifth-year option? I don't know. Me personally, I would advocate for, at minimum, pick up the fifth-year option for 2026. So you got him for 2025. Make sure that you've got him retained for 2026 and see what happens. Of course, he could go off. He could score 13 touchdowns and go all-pro, and then you owe him a crap ton of money the following year. I think that could benefit the Lions as well, meaning if they did let him go after 2026, then the comp pick they got in return would be elevated because of his all-pro status, or if he scored 13 touchdowns, really exploded, which is the reason why I'm drafting Trey Harris. I'm not sure if it occurs to other people to build depth there, because you do have Reynolds one more year, also, of the big receiver Tim Patrick. So I recognize others may go a different route. That's why I like this piece of content. It's challenging for me. I like Trey Harris, very talented, makes plays downfield, good at the catch point. His 40 time at the combine, only a 4.5, so he's not a Jameson Williams type. More of a Tim Patrick, to be honest with you. He's balanced, very adept at winning routes across the middle, multiple types of routes across the middle. So that Tim Patrick mode, that Josh Reynolds type route, I think he fits there perfectly. I really like his game. I want either the Ravens or the Lions to draft him. I find myself picking him multiple times if he's available. But look, if you want D-line here and you want a hybrid, Jordan Burch from Oregon, 6'6", I believe, the D-end hybrid there. Let me know who you picked. I am also cognizant of the fact that many people are allowing Xavier Watts to slide down the draft board. As I said earlier, I'm a little bit less impressed with the All-22 film than some of the live broadcast stuff. I don't know really what his best role is. Detroit doesn't need a middle-of-the-field free safety, but he's available here at safety at this pick. So I went with Scourton and also Trey Harris at receiver. And then we'll move to third-round pick, the last one that I'll basically give everybody a choice for. Feel free to give me feedback on the style of content, the structure here as we go. So this one's going to be a wider net because we've all gone in different directions in round 1 and round 2, most likely. Perhaps there's some overlap that are synonymous in terms of our picks. So I'm going to have rotate through here, or flow through with a defensive end edge, D-tackle, interior linemen, so guard and centers, and also wide receiver. I do want to talk about a couple of guys. Farmer actually was still available here. As I did this, again, this is pre-recorded, but I actually went through the mock draft process. I think I went through 3 times to try to create something that was as realistic as my brain could create. Dylan Fairchild from Georgia is a attractive guard prospect for me. Not here, and I'm going to use him as an example for I like the pick, but not the player. If I was to take him, or anyone was to take him in the third round here at 102 with the talent that's on the board, I don't think that'd be a great pick. I like Demetrius Knight, Kyle Kennard, who you see on the left-hand side. I've made no bones about it that Emory Jones is one of the tackles that I enjoy watching film of, and I like him for a lot of reasons, very balanced. Fairchild, to pick him in the third round, or maybe even the fourth round, would not be ideal. But if you got him in the fifth, it's a fantastic situation. Very similar, if you ask me, to Christian Mahogany last year. Dylan Fairchild's kind of scrappy, smart, ultra quick, solid choice for any team, but not here at 102. So when I say I like the player but not the pick, that's what I mean. So the 3 left in the middle frame are the most interesting to me that I mentioned a moment ago. Knight, Kennard, and Jones. All 3 SEC guys. Demetrius Knight, fast, ultra quick inside linebacker, ton of range, good tackler. I like Kyle Kennard, but he's more of a pure 3-4 OLB. I almost took him here, but I feel like with the injury to Aleem McNeil, and others, that grabbing a talented player at defensive tackle was more astute. And the Lions did make a free agent signing last week, so they may not go that route. I recognize that. I do like Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle from Florida State. Really good athlete. He kind of reminds me of Travis Jones in some ways. Travis Jones, a underrated, powerful, good pass rush defensive tackle for the Ravens, with Aleem McNeil returning from injury. I think DJ Reader's in his second year in Detroit. Onwuzurike is returning. I felt fortunate to get Farmer here at 102. I think he could be off the board sooner. I know there's some concerns about his consistency, but he's very talented, especially as a three technique guy. I would love to see him on the field with Reader, and then two actual, defensive end type guys in Hutchinson and Scourton at times. I think he provides depth on the interior, although they did just sign a veteran free agent. Who did you pick here in round 3? And how do you compare your selections with mine? So I actually did go ahead and do a 4th round selection as well, and then I decided to stop it. I don't think anyone wants to listen to me talk for even 15 or 20 minutes, but let alone to get through the entire draft. My final selections are there. The offensive tackle from UConn, also the possibility of being able to play an interior offensive line position, a guard position. I wanted to create some depth for the Lions, see how they handle guard without Zeitler being there. That'll be a task. I do think Christian Mahogany has the skills. Concerns about his injury history, I guess something about his feet, whatever, and also knowing that Decker has dealt with injuries at times. I think it will be smart to get a tackle/guard hybrid. They did return Dan Skipper once again, who gives them another backup tackle along with Manu. I do like this group here, but feel free to criticize or compare what I was able to produce with yours. And you can omit my 4th round selection here if you wish. Maybe use a greater than or less than symbol. My draft is greater than all 22s, or all 22s is greater than all, or whatever you want to put. Post your 3 picks in the comment section as during the premiere and or at the end of the video in the comment section if you don't mind. Clearly, I am trying to get engagement and trying to get people to comment. Maybe there's probably a smoother way to do this. Hopefully the idea came through at the end or at some point during the video. I'd like to do a shared document. If anyone's willing to help with that, that'd be great. One thing to mention, besides the fact that I'm still in the middle of my my draft study, which you see some of the players flow through here. I've actually got, I think, 44 players done at this point, meaning 44 folders to share hyperlinks in blue, which you see. I don't think that actually displays 44 of them. I think it's only like 32. But in any case, I'm in the middle of my draft evals and trying to get some of that information out to the people in my Discord and my Patreon. And then last night, while I was cutting some film, I heard that Trayvon Walker could possibly be available. I don't know what your thoughts are. I think that Detroit should look at drafting 2. I don't think that Derek Barnes is is an edge rusher on passing downs, and certainly Trayvon Walker is. And the salary point for 2025 would be low. Extending him or picking up that 5th-year option just makes complete sense to me, but I understand that people have various opinions. The name is different from the game, and I think the film is very good. Why not at least explore it? Sign one, trade one, draft one, or draft 2. In any case, I think the position needs to be addressed a little more forcefully than maybe it has in the past. This piece of content, I only did 3 rounds for you with the interaction. Like I said, I could easily make it more formal if someone has a better idea for how to create a shared workspace that is secure. And like I said, if someone was willing to help out or manage it while I do the drafting during a live stream, that would be fantastic. In any case, Brad Holmes' draft could look drastically or vastly different from this one. I like trying to project things from a progression of okay, I addressed edge defender at 28. Where are we going to go at pick 60? I recognize that Trey Harris may not be a popular choice there with the depth that the Lions have at wide receiver, but he's a talent that I wouldn't want to pass on, number 1, and number 2, kind of future-proof the position. But Detroit's I think the Detroit Lions are in win now and win forever mode. I don't think that this is a team that needs to go, quote, all in 2025 or 2026. I think this franchise, this coaching staff, this front office and group of players is there to compete for a championship for 3 or 4 more seasons at minimum. There's no reason why Brad Holmes, the front office, Dan Campbell can't keep things operating in the same manner on a day-to-day basis and keep this team operating at a high level. Will they be able to go 15-2 with the schedule that they've got next year? Who knows? I wouldn't put it past them. In any case, this is my mock draft, my interactive mock draft for the Detroit Lions, where you get to be the GM for at least 3 rounds. Feel free to let me know what you think of the idea, the type of content, the style in the comment section, number 1. And then number 2, if you think other Lions fans might enjoy this one, please consider grabbing a link to it, maybe putting up a short description, and then posting it somewhere on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.